Anybody? I move they are, I move to accept them as presented.
Second.
Okay, discussion? All those in favor? Okay, it passes. Okay, next item, now unfinished business. This is discussion on the new online bidding system from Infotech Training, and I heard that you had training Tuesday. And
Yes.
tell us more.
It was very, it's very intuitive. It's laid out well. And I tend to be kind of, with my background as a attorney and drafting a lot of these, you tend to lean towards drafting from scratch because you can capture the deal better. So I'm always a little nervous about, assembly setup. This one's fantastic. It gives you enough flexibility to do the things that specifically that you need to do while making it very user friendly. You can have people that aren't really as knowledgeable about the process still put something together. It's pretty easy to use, and their support is fantastic so far. The guy was great to work with, and I think it will, assuming that it has the kind of reach to the vendors that we're looking for, I think it will work for us very well.
You agree?
I do, yeah.
I was going to ask, and let's say we put a bid out, so you put out a link with that. Is that how it works? So that's how they would respond.
What's
the
well, what for us, if we were going to say we're going to bid, the water main project, and we would upload into the system our bid,
their system into their system.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we have our own account. We have a portal. It has all our stuff.
Is it in an app or is it like?
It's a website.
Website. Okay.
Yeah, and it's nice because you can set it to capture all of the correspondence, all of the activity, all of the records. Everything can be kept in that system in a logical way, so that and it will force vendors to complete the things that we require them to before they can submit. It's wonderful.
Well, not allowing you to open the bids before the moment so somebody can't accidentally click on something and the bid was open. There's a lot of protection.
I like that.
It's one of the things I was worried about is opening of sealed bids, and it's set up to accommodate that. So you can't open, if the sealed bid process, then you can't open them. They're encrypted, and you can't open them till the bidding period closes, and it records when they were open.
And there's also, they have both e-signature and digital identity. So that, and then that's something that is stored on their servers, not with us. So that's potentially a liability issue, but you can actually confirm that the person that is doing the bid is in fact that person with identity verification. And that's no charge to vendors. And to answer your original question, functionally, the way this would play out is once it's in the system and we're ready for it to go out for publication or to get bids, we'll have, and this is actually how we found their service, the town will have a site that we can put our logo, we can put a picture at the top heading, the shot from Maryland Heights, and then anything we have out to bid will be listed there, and anything that has already been in the past can be listed there too. We can put up extra documentation if we wanted to. We could put up this is how Harper's Ferry does bids. It's really flexible that way. So we would be able to potentially put a link on the website to click here for to see work that we have out right now. That link can be sent if we know there are vendors who've expressed interest. It can be sent to them directly. And when we post ads, we can put a link to our page so that it can really cast the net a lot wider in a secure way.
Now, we can communicate through the website, so we can send information out, but the only people we can really contact effectively through the website are vendors that are already enrolled in the site. So say we have a vendor, like with the sludge thing, if we wanted, we're doing some direct solicitation for RFPs. If we want to make sure that these guys get it and they're unlikely to be on our system, we would send them an email containing the link, which would then prompt them to sign up so that they could. And so, it helps the company, because it gets more vendors.
Grows their network.
Correct. So it's sort of the pricing structure for those soliciting bids is really quite favorable. And they're able to do that because our process naturally grows their business. So it's synergistic. And looking at it from a lawyer's perspective, they've kind of contemplated all of the problems. It's interesting. The company's actually based in Florida, and they do a lot more than just this. This is just one product. And they do a lot of construction management kind of, software and project development software and things like that. So there's a lot of stuff out there that's construction related, and Florida construction law is pretty well developed because it's a developer state. There's a lot of real estate development in Florida. So these things are pretty well vetted from these are the hot points where you're going to have problems, like the sealed bids thing was that's a good thing that a computer person, a software technician or software engineer might not really contemplate in a use case setting, but these people clearly have an understanding of how these processes go and where the problems are.
Two other kind of exciting features. In general, it confirmed everything we were hoping the platform would be, everything that Bill is talking about. They do provide vendor support. So if there are folks who've never used a platform like this, they'll be able to call and get support to do that. And beyond that, there was something key. Oh yeah, the templates. So a nice feature for time savings is if we have boilerplate language and components that, let's say, we do these contracts frequently, it'll be very quick to be able to just drag and drop these different components into a new RFP. And even if you need to create a new RFP, it's nothing's foolproof, but it's set up in a way that it's pretty quick. And
there's not a lot of reinventing the wheel.
Yes.
And from my construction background, a lot of construction contracting is set up that way, the AIS contracting and things like that. They have AIA, they have, imagine a bank of, cubby holes on the wall, and each one's a page that deals with a certain kind of problem. And depending on the deal, you pick certain ones and you assemble those, staple them, it's contract. And there are parts that you may drop in some specifics, but for the most part, the whole system is boilerplate. And this kind of models that, except that we have more flexibility in tweaking our own templates, which it gives us the ability to specifically craft something for a particular situation, but also utilize all the stuff we made before. Like I'll be borrowing a lot of language from, the last big bid thing we did, because a lot of that stuff is also form documents from a form document warehouse. So it's well vetted, well litigated. You don't have to, redo it.
Reinvent the wheel.
Right.
And then the next step, this was informational, where he walked us through the whole system. The next phase will be a hands-on training session where he'll walk us through actually developing a bid package. And then I think there's a second training, and basically by the end of that, he seems pretty confident. And now from what I've seen, I feel confident too, that we'll be ready to start assembling them for real and potentially going live with this platform for those projects that require it.
Yeah, I was impressed. A lot of times you see these things that are not particularly intuitive. A lot of times software gets designed by the software engineers and they don't get a lot of You know, they don't get a lot of feedback from the end user, and the end user just kind of has to deal. They give the functionality, but can't always find it. This was pretty well thought out from a user interface standpoint.
Well, the other piece is just, excuse me for interrupting, but they realize that very much the success will be in the customer service they provide and the training they provide. If you had just tried to go in there and figure it out without training, it would not have been we would not have such a favorable moment, because you know, the nuances of just learning where to click, etc., makes such a big difference. And I can say that from having to deal with this software on my own the other day. There's a difference in that experience, and they're wise to offer that, you know, as we need it. So that's good.
And their service is very thorough.
Yeah.
The guy's great. The guy assigned to us is fantastic.
Yeah.
Could we use them as a resource to help us, not to do the software, but like some concepts, like we're trying to do an RFP, and bounce an idea off them, but
Yes, well, sort of, not directly. They're not going to advise on our policy, but they have a lot of agencies, municipalities that work with them, that you can search through their entire body of contracts and RFPs that are out, not contracts, RFPs that are out there. So let's say we wanted to find a sludge removal RFP as a model.
okay, that's useful.
Yeah, you can come through and look at other people's stuff.
I like that. Oh, that's great.
Like they're not going to, I imagine this is a liability issue as much as anything. And it starts to push up against legal advice, but they're not going to advise us on how to construct, you know, but they will show us how to put the pieces together.
Okay.
And they will give us plenty of access to look at other people's things. And if we're like, hey, we want to look at this particular kind of thing that was done, how they handled this problem, they can probably assist us with that. So yes,
Okay.
but it's a
That's
limited scope.
And it sounds as though this software will not directly help us widen the net, which was,
It will.
Yeah, oh yes.
it'll make it easier for us to send out.
What goes to everybody in their system, or?
Well, they've already got a substantial user base.
So it can go to, if you click a certain.
It'll go to everybody that's looking for sludge removal contracts will get our bids, you know. So those things, they have it set up so that people can search those things and find those things, and you know, it will be posted publicly throughout their system. So yes, it's already a wider net. As soon as we put something on it, we've got a wider net than we've ever had. It may not, where we may have issues is we may not have as many vendors locally that are participating in it. So so in part, yes, we have a larger net, especially for, you know, if we start to bundle project, or we put 3 or 4 things up and somebody says, look, you know, I can do those, but I need to do them all. Can we, you know? So the other thing is we can also, to a certain extent, make our own market. You know, grow that locally.
Yeah.
And from prior discussion, I understand it's paid for by each individual job. We pay a fee.
We don't pay a fee.
No, it's paid. That was an option, is to cover that, but we opted for the version that the vendor pays in order to submit. So you can download in this system for no cost, but then if you want to participate, I think it's $25, but
That's pretty nominal. Yeah.
Well, the vendor would pay that each
Yes.
time they bid,
On one of our,
project.
or is it 25 for always?
it's 25 for I think it's 25 for a single, and you can also subscribe, like let's say
Oh, I see,
a
yeah.
regional contractor, you can subscribe, and I think you might even be able to subscribe to a single region for no
Mhm.
cost. But
Okay.
that it's a minimum amount for the vendors, which is nice.
But that also tells you that, I mean, even though they clearly do in their business other things aside from this particular portal, it tells you that they're generating enough bids to make this a viable product. It's developed enough that
this was not an inexpensive product to develop.
so
Yeah.
A lot of
to me,
work.
that
went into it.
indicates some level of success on their part.
And it's been around for quite a while as far as these platforms go. Yeah, but
And the
it's,
company's been in business for a while. They're not a fly-by-night operation.
I don't think so.
So a lot of the bugs have been worked out.
Yep, it seems like it.
and their interest in us is that we are going to have a fairly decent number of RFPs to put out. They're making their money because each time we put one out and people participate, they're collecting from each one of those folks that are bidding.
Well, we're growing their geographic reach too.
Yes.
Well, given that it sounds, all I'm hearing is positive news. And given that there's no startup or purchasing cost for us, I'm wondering, is this just something we need to report to the town council and then just
I
have
would-
the office put into use? or-
I would think that we recommend it to town council as the platform that we use for that, or bids that are over $25,000, which falls into our bid level D of our new process.
Mhm.
And then when we develop that part of the flow chart, basically it's just gonna be a go to the Infotech with whatever group it is that's developing the bid, and you take it from there.
And
Yeah.
point of order, we can't recommend that now. Discussion.
No,
But if it's built into the flow chart process, then we can.
exactly, right.
But in my opinion, because it's not costing the town anything, I think we notify the council. And all department heads and things, if this is our system. I mean, we can.
Well, there's
I
still.
don't know, I know that cost is a big factor, but, you know, for instance, when we're gonna be bringing to town council, this, method with the water department to accept automatic payments. It's not gonna cost us anything, but it changes the way that we're doing business. And the council has to agree that this is what you want to do. That's my perspective, and that's what I've understood from the state auditor's office. And to me, this is much the same thing. It's a portal through which you are going to be accepting formal contracts.
Mhm.
And I feel, even though it doesn't cost anything, I think that you have to say, yes, that's what we want to do.
I
Yeah.
agree.
I also feel it's important for it to be on the public record if we're using
Yeah.
a system like this, because, you know, to be able to make sure if you're a member of the public and you see a contract and you're looking into it, that it's known and that it can't be said that.
And it
there's
also prevents people from coming later and saying, oh, but I like this one over here. I'm going to use this one today. You know,
It designates it as our
designates it
official
as our
tool.
official
Okay.
tool.
I get it, I get it.
And there's a certain level of,
You have the agenda next meeting.
yeah, I think there are some folks that bristle at, you know, unilateral kind of decisions that feel unilateral to them. And so this way it sort of makes sure everybody's
Mhm.
in on the decision. And it also, because all of our meetings are public record, and there are people that do sift through our minutes and our things like that for business reasons. Because that's one place that potential vendors look at, you know, that will help us. And maybe it'll even get in, you know, maybe Tim Cook will pick it up and say, oh, the town's decided to do electronic bidding and they're going through this portal. You know, that's free advertising for us to get that information out there. So I think it's win-win by running up the official flagpole.
Is everybody else, if we approve this, then which will be, we'll have an opportunity in the next meeting agenda. Can we put this like on our website? Something that.
Yeah.
Yes, oh yeah.
There's a link. There will be.
Well, just so everybody knows.
Yeah.
No, I think that's part of the strategy has
Yeah.
to be to put in a very noticeable place, you know, current
Bids.
public works projects, bids for that are here. You know, so anybody, you know, looking for municipal work will land on our webpage and go, oh, it's right there.
And then that will take them over to the Infotech place.
Okay.
Right, and then they can look and they can decide if they want to register, if they want to bid.
Good idea.
Well, looking at next week's agenda, which I haven't done yet.
It's not on there. And
Is there any report from us where we could give everyone a heads up? This is what we are
I
considering.
don't remember, there is a place for a report.
Yeah, could we just do that? Just- and
This
this is-
is where is it meant for you in the financial?
I think it's in the ad hoc report.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, just give everyone a heads up, we're looking at this software and we'd like to maybe take a vote to put this as policy next.
Right.
And if we need to utilize it between now and that vote, I think that's okay because it'll be part of our research,
Right,
a live fire exercise.
yeah,
And so I don't think it prohibits us from continuing our training and loading up a real bid.
Yeah, we're not
to make it
officially-
official.
Well, it wouldn't be happening until December anyway. I mean.
Yeah.
Because we still, the budget finance meeting, or our committee has to put it over, push it
Right.
over.
Well, I think it's okay to use it in the short term because we're not formally adopting it as the platform. And also there are no commitments. Like if we wanted to, we could just also do another platform if we chose. So we're not
Right.
bound by this process.
Right.
Okay. Any more discussion? Nothing out? Okay. So we'll move on to number 2, which is discussion and action on finalizing the procurement and purchasing process for Corporation of Harpersburg for town council approval.
okay. So,
And on that, go ahead.
thank you. I've moved some of my chicken scratch over to the computer. And in the process of doing that, I found it kind of distills as you start working with all the blocks that, you pencil in. Before we get into that though, I want to just review a few things that I learned from a seminar that I attended with the state auditor's office, and then I called for clarification. And I think that these are two things, well, certainly one thing that we're going to need to incorporate into our process. And that has to do with that $500 threshold, which has sort of been which was actually really sort of the impetus of what started this whole
That's right,
process.
it started with that.
And Christian went to the seminar with me, and there was a lot of discussion about the purchasing process and signing off on checks and responsibilities thereof and how that should be handled. And every once in a while, that $500 number would pop up again. And I was like, what is it with that? And so I called, and that $500 level, meaning that any purchases made over $500 needed to go before town council before they were executed. And so I called and talked to our contact down there for municipalities, and that threshold is not a state mandated threshold. It is a threshold that the town council needs to adopt as a comfort level for them, meaning all the purchases that happen by the town are the responsibility of the town council. And so if something goes wrong, the town council is the one who's going to have to deal with that, make up for it somehow, whatever that end might be. And so they need to decide what level of money are they comfortable with in their system, having go on as a part of daily life without coming before them for approval before it is executed. So there's two parts to that. Also, I'm going to dig a little deeper. One is just a straight dollar level. And this would be regardless of the fact that it may have been approved in the fiscal budget. So let's say, let me give you an example. So let's say you decide in the fiscal 22 budget that you want to replace the desk for the town clerk out here. And in the fiscal 22 budget, we have a note approved up to $1,500. When it came time to purchase that, if you say that $1,000 is the threshold that the town council is comfortable with, then what if this thing is not $999 before they buy it? It needs to come before you and you say, okay, we're okay with that. You can go ahead. So this is going to have to be part of our process. The town council is going to need to decide what threshold, and I have to sort of find a place that it fits properly, that we deal with it. I think I have it on the award page. I think it actually needs to go on the purchase page, but that's a discussion for later. The other part of that discussion is there's usually an agreement about ordinary and routine purchases that may come above that threshold. So let's take, for instance, one example we've talked about lately is chemicals down at the water plant. Or let's talk about maybe utilities, okay? So let's say your threshold is $1,000 again. And let's say that, you know, the power bill for the lights comes in at $1,050 every month, you know? Well, it's every month, it's the same thing, you know, the council needs to say, yep, okay, we're okay with utilities being part of that, that we don't need to look at that every month, as long as they're falling within the range of normalcy. And then they might also say, okay, the plant chemicals are routine and ordinary. We don't want to hold up that process, so because it has to be approved every regular meeting. So we're willing to be okay with purchases of plant chemicals being over $1,000 as well. So in talking that through with our Shelley down at the state auditor's office, it was recommended that the council actually adopt a list of things that they are okay with, such as utilities, such as plant chemicals, such as whatever. And if you want to put a caveat in there that, you know, as long as pricing is consistent, as long as it remains within whatever agreement we have, whatever you want to say about that. So this is language that I think we as this group probably would be a good idea for us to come up with, or budget and finance to come up with as a part of this process that we then present to council that they adopt. And I think then it will be a lot clearer to all of us about what we are doing and why we're doing it in this mystery.
And one additional thing to that is we'll probably want to have something in there that says, with the new administration coming in, that list be reviewed, so that we're not encumbering the next administration with current administration's decisions.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And so so like this term, like the first thing we did was we changed all the check signers. And so in that moment, when we're doing all that, then I feel like the same thing has to say, you also have to adopt that this is the threshold you're accepting. These are the bills, and then everybody understands. Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah. And then the other piece that she suggested that I talked to her about the process, and this is a little bit sidetracking, but just so you're aware, I talked to her about the process that we use for bill approval and check signing, and she said that's totally fine what we're doing. However, she does recommend us adding an additional report to our monthly reports that we provide to town council, which is a list of checks and purchases that have been made in the previous month. So the financials that you get are 1 month behind the previous month. So therefore, even though we've gone through the process where the approver has approved the bill and 2 signers have looked and examined the bill and they are accepting responsibility, we would then also just have a report and say, these are all the checks that went out, and we're going to do November's meeting in October. It's not going to happen in November, it'll happen in December, but that would be the idea. And then the financials you're approving are the September financials. So you're going to have September financials, October purchases in your November meeting.
Yeah, it's a great layer of accountability and openness.
Yeah. And keeps people informed.
Well, the public is now more informed.
Mhm.
I mean, in the meeting.
Right.
Because it's.
Yeah,
Right.
no, and it adds an additional layer of transparency, and
Mhm.
you know, it keeps us keeps on our toes.
Right. So, okay. So all that said, I started converting the flowcharts to the computer, and I also started, as I was doing this, like I said, the process started to distill, and you know, I didn't want it. I'm like, do I really need to put that block on there? Because it's a lot of work to do that, especially in the start. But you know, I started refining it more and more, and I also started to refine more and more and define more and more the difference between procurement and purchasing, I think, in our life here. And procurement seems to be developing as I'm making these more definite into choosing who and under what terms purchasing will be made with. And then the purchasing is the actual act of buying. So when you're trying to figure out who am I going to buy this from, you first say, okay, well, is it from $0 to $2,500? And if it is, then I can go through here. Oh, I don't really need to make any bids. And then I go to my award process. So that's why I did level A and level B, which says level A, which that needs to be fixed. But then I skipped over to the award process because I sort of wanted you to see how that was going to, I was running out of time. So I wanted you to see how that was going to flow. And that goes through the piece of, okay, do I have all the bidders that I needed? Okay, and am I able to award to the lowest bidder? Oh, am I not able to award to the lowest bidder? What do I do? Once I've made the award, what do I do? And then I think that goes right to the purchase process. So I've got some pieces on the award thing that talk about purchase, but I think that actually is going to go over to come off of there and go on to the purchase process. And so then I also envision us having these other sheets that talk about emergency purchasing. What do you do if there's a tie bid? What do you do? I'll have to incorporate that into that award process and say, oh, go to the tie bid process, go to the whatever, somebody, I can't remember what they all are, but so that's how far I got. Any questions? Don't make it too hard. I missed a lot of arrows. It took me a while to figure out how to use the arrows.
I like this. It flows very nicely.
Okay. The comment back at that, the town council approving the threshold level and the normal expenditures past that they're gonna be good with. It seems like that could be easily be put into the new policy.
Yes.
suite. That would be the new
Yes.
policy. That would be accepted by.
And that what I think what'll happen is that, oh, and I totally forgot that we did that. I also sent you that piece,
Yeah.
which is the narrative that's gonna be in front of the flow charts.
Right.
But yes, that I discovered that information after I wrote that. So that needs to be added to that. But that piece that we're talking about right there will become part of the purchase process. So the first question is going to be, is this over $1,000? Let's say they choose $1,000. If it is it on the list of approved items that can proceed without approval by council? And if it's not, then put it on the agenda.
Mm-hmm.
And that'll be part of the process of the actual purchase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing I brought up going over the flow sheet, flow charts, it's ending up being more complicated organization than I had originally envisioned, because we have about 3 or 4 questions that have to be answered before you know which process exactly is followed.
Well, I'm sorry, you finished. I think I know where you're going. Okay.
Well, I'm wondering if it might be easier to have a whole series of pages of procedures, A, B, C, D, E, F, how many do we need? And then a page of questions. Is it an emergency? Is it
Got it.
is it coming? And then,
Yep.
And then just say, go to sheet
Yeah.
E.
Mhm. That's exactly right. Yeah. I kind of had to sort of start somewhere. And before I made that, I wanted to make sure that what I made was going to fit this. It's sort of like building the table of contents after you've got the book done.
Yeah.
So that's sort of, I'm on that with you. And like, for instance, quick summary here, if you look at that, that tells you about your bid levels on the bottom of that.
Yeah.
So immediately, okay, I don't need to go reading through all this. I'm at $10,000. I go to level B. Right. That's, and yes, we'll have one for emergency, and it will either qualify or disqualify as emergency and send you back to this.
Mhm.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I think that's what you're
Yeah,
getting at.
she's got it all sorted so that you don't have to just start with flowchart and go, which one do I need?
Right. Right. And these bits at the bottom where these little boxes with arrows, those send you to the next page that you need. So it's not like, okay, now I got here, do I just go to page 2? No, it says go to the award process.
Mhm.
So you flip through till you find the award process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where are we, or where is it in terms of, is this actionable for us to recommend at this point? Or are there parts that we can recommend now? For example, the page that just has the overall policy, but maybe not the flow chart yet, or what would you
I think we
recommend?
have to wait till I get it all done.
I think, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
I think it has to be
Because-
all done. Yeah.
Yeah, because as this distills and gets more clear, then I gotta go back and check that narrative and make sure that narrative fits with this. So I think we're just at a kumbaya moment that we're on the right
We
path.
know where we're going
And,
now.
and I just really need, some hours to sit and flow chart.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely the right track. Oh, yeah.
Well, and I envision once we do make this presentation, it'll all be typed. We can,
Yeah.
put it up in front of everybody. and
Yeah.
Amaze them with how easy it is.
Woohoo!
Yeah. Yeah, this is, I mean, I see it coming together. I can squint and see it.
But you
Yeah.
can see how loosey-goosey we were in the past.
It's
Yeah.
terrifying.
Right.
Yeah.
And I just, even though I think to people who are gonna look at it the first time and have to use it, it may feel like a lot. I also believe that there's been a lot of discomfort about, am I doing this right?
Mhm.
And I think that's gonna go away. And I think that having the table of contents, so to speak, that we were just talking about will provide a level of comfort that it's not gonna be overwhelming.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
it's great that you put in the different methods that people can get the information, like a flow chart is great, that you can step through it, but also if you are comfortable to go to those FAQ questions, if you have a specific question. So it's great that it has those layers.
Well, we'll also have Deb. So,
Well, I think ideally, it would eventually be an electronic process that anyone in town can, or anyone in town government can answer 5 questions, hit a button, and it's gonna take them to a page which explains.
Well, that would be very
That's-
fancy dancy and
all right,
ideal,
who,
but I'm not there yet.
who's got a development team we can throw
Well,
at that?
that's actually something, I don't have a development background, but there are relatively simple tools that can be used for that sort of thing. I don't know, it might be beyond Google Forms, but it could be something, if we decided there was enough need for it, even if it's not an off-the-shelf thing, that could be contracted to develop something simple or set something like that up.
I could get somebody to do that.
Well, and that actually brings up a good point that I wanted to ask about. And that is that we are woefully ineffective at using purchase orders in this organization. When I first got here, I sort of tried to get that going, and we even ordered like some little purchase order pads just to get something on paper, and it just didn't happen. And so one thing that we do need to think about is whether we want to say, look, we've got to generate a purchase order. Because what I'm concerned about is that we're not, you don't, especially in the volatility of the market right now, we're seeing that with like plant chemicals and stuff like that. You do need to make sure that when that invoice comes in, it matches what you agreed to pay. And also that you documented to your vendor that this is what I'm paying today. Not, it wasn't over telephone, you told me it's $5 and it comes in at 15. Wait a minute, right? So I'm not sure whether and then at what point is a purchase order needed, right? So if it's under $2,500 and or if it's under $1,000, or if it's under $500, like you need a purchase order for everything you order on Amazon because it's office supplies. So I do need your help with a little bit of contemplation about that. And then to that end, it certainly would be easier if we had just a fillable form or something electronic that we could say.
Yeah, that's
"Here's
something
vendor."
I have some experience in this area, that, and we're starting to get a little off topic, but that's something I can look into. Is there are off-the-shelf solutions. There are solutions that tie with QuickBooks that you can do
Right.
invoicing and that kind of thing. But finding one that's as simple to step into as possible would be the best.
Right. And I know that there's solutions inside of QuickBooks to generate purchase orders and all that invoicing and everything like that. But we are not living in a world where we can let everybody interface with QuickBooks.
No.
And so how do we just get a paper purchase order that can be matched up and so when you see the bill you're approving, you're like, okay, yeah, here's the purchase order. This is what happened. This will be good and billed for. I won't even talk about the shipping receiving papers. I can't get those either.
Let me investigate some electronic platforms that may be standalone that can do this,
Okay.
Being a whole deal.
Right.
Because when you do things electronically, it can make it much easier for people to step into it and just
Yes.
can't be lost, and that there's this paper trail that will be durable.
Okay, that would be awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah.
And a lot of purchase orders are emailed now.
So I think our system of approval, like I've been doing them, are good and effective, but I do not know whether that's the right price or not. I'm just
Yep.
saying, I'm okay in that.
Yeah.
Right.
But I really don't know.
And really, because the only way that I know to be concerned about stuff like that is just discussions that we cut. So for instance, about the plant chemicals, I know that's a volatile market right now. So things like that, I make another layer and I further require that the purchaser initial buy the price, that is what they agree to, in addition to the regular stamp. So I know they've looked at that price. But unless I know we've got a problem in the market, I don't know to do that,
Well, and that's a good example, because that's an industry where POs are normal.
Yeah, right.
In fact,
And
some
that should
of
be easy to
those
do.
businesses have a harder time selling to people that don't do POs, because they're like, what do I do?
What am I
I'm
supposed
on
to do?
this screen and I don't have a PO number.
Right.
Well,
So that would be super awesome, Storm, if you're able to just find something simple for folks to interface with
I'm optimistic. Sort of a goal.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and I can give you a little example personally of, I dealt with Untitled to remove a tree in my property, and they gave me 3 prices. And I'm like, later on, I get the bill, and it was okay. I picked one option, but then later on, like, I went, did I actually get my discount? I was supposed to get a discount. And I could verify, I could go back to my email, but here, we don't have a way for me to do that.
Right, and it would be time prohibitive for you to do the research to make sure that that's the price that was agreed to, because you may not even know who agreed to it. So
That's another thing, I don't know.
and the PO solves all of those problems.
Okay.
Yep.
Then this is good.
On the other hand, if you do have a question about a bill as you're approving it,
Yes, I will.
well, first of all, if do ask, please. But also, I do my best to have the person who's involved in the purchasing of it, the department, to sign off on something that's pertinent. So for instance, if you see something that chief is signed off on, that would be if I'm not here, that's who you would talk to. If you see something that Angie signed off on, that you go talk to her, or Chris Steyer, right? So you call him if I'm not around and you had a question. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's who I would get involved if I was involved. So, yeah. Okay.
Okay, this is very good.
Good.
Yeah.
Right, I'm glad that came up. So, okay, so Storm, you're gonna look into the electronic thing. Do we want to pull this into this committee next?
I think we do, because if that's the way we want to go, I'd really like to make it part of the actual purchasing process.
Right.
And then it becomes, this is what you got to do, folks.
Right,
Yeah.
and everybody's on notice.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay.
It will become habit faster.
So sorry.
Add doc, still add doc, we're still moving on.
This is good though.
Yeah,
Oh, it
I
is
think
good.
it is good.
It is good. This is tighter controls.
And it just protects everyone. It protects the people who are trying to do their jobs. It protects you,
Protects me
signing,
as a signer,
it protects the
protects- I
citizens.
mean, as an
It's-
approver, and then you're the
Yeah.
signer, and then all of a sudden somebody complains about something, and they.
And people who have to do it may find it to be annoying at the outset, but I guarantee you, there's gonna be that one time they're gonna be like, man, I'm glad I had to purchase.
Well, and that one time makes it all worth it.
Yep.
The other thing is, it sounds like we're adding complexity on the front end. To a certain extent, we are, but these steps will save
Yep.
loads of complexity that we may never be able to untangle at the other end.
Yep.
and it allows us to be more transparent and to be more cognizant of what we're accountable for
And
to the
the,
public.
and the other reason to just validate or authenticate why we're doing this, we move a lot of invoices. It's not like that we're just handling 12 invoices a month. There's a lot of stuff we're moving through this office, and we should have that network in place.
Yeah.
Yep.
The more we can automate, the less hassles it'll be, the easier it'll be to deal with, and the more accountability.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Does anyone have anything else?
So next step on this whole number 2 item.
We're not gonna.
I gotta finish it up.
Just,
And then Storm is gonna let us know about any kind of purchase order platform we can work with that we can integrate into it. So if you come up with something and want to just get with me, that we can look at it really quick, and maybe I can incorporate it in here, and then we can cover it all in the next meeting, that would be awesome, but we may need a interim.
Yeah, when's the next meeting?
Okay, so I,
Get a calendar out.
I'm gonna be away the week of the 22nd.
I'm gonna be away the week. The week of the 14th, I'm gone, be in Cincinnati.
In December.
Oh, December?
I'm asking you.
December?
No, I'm asking in November. Are you away the week of the 14th in November?
Yes.
Okay, so why don't we say the first, second, third, first or second of December? Don't make it the first, make it the second. So things always happen on the first of the month for me for some reason.
That's a Thursday?
second is Thursday.
Yeah,
I think that's good for me.
and
I
I
have,
should,
I have a thing at noon and a thing at 5. Otherwise, I'm good.
well, let's go for 10 again.
Okay, 10
Or
a.m.
is 2 better for everyone?
2.
10's fine.
Oh, did you say, what did you say, noon and 5?
Yep, 10's
Or
fine.
okay,
Or 2 o'clock work?
is 2 better?
Mhm.
Okay, 2 p.m.
I didn't know it's better for me. I thought it might be. for
Oh.
you.
No, 10's fine. Either one's fine.
Okay, 10 a.m.
10.
10 a.m. December 2nd. Okay, next meeting.
This morning was.
Yeah,
really
and
good,
I feel like between now and then, I should be pretty much done with what we need to look at.
Same for the PO platforms.
Yeah, if you could talk about that, I'll put that on the agenda as a discussion item. I'll make a discussion in action just. in
Right,
case.
right, and we'll want discussion and action on Infotech, and we'll want
Yeah.
discussion and action on the process.
I'm no longer gonna use discussion ever again. Never know.
Yeah, no, I do discussion and action as needed is how I put it.
Well,
Well,
better.
we've been told
You've
no.
been told no.
Not
Kevin
supposed to do
Carter
that.
said that's not.
Okay.
I know, I put it on there.
I
I just started removing. But you do.
Okay, so
He-
that's
he and I
for
can agree to
another
disagree.
day.
Okay.
All right, so we're good?
Yep,
You
we're
gonna
good.
make a
So,
motion?
make a motion that we, end our session today.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. All right. And Storm, you're leaving, right?
Yeah, so I'm going to be heading out for a cruise of all things to test their COVID protocols. And then I'll be back Tuesday, I think. Yeah.
Okay,
Cool.
good.
hope their COVID protocols are good.
I've learned a lot about it. It's one of the things I do in one of the key industries that I'm in, and they are super serious about it. And they've actually been sailing in other parts of the world and country for a while, and they're super serious. So we wouldn't be doing it if we didn't think it'd be safe. I'm actually more nervous about the flight down and spending a night in Florida than I am.
Yeah, I
about
would
the
skip
cruise.
that part.
Yeah. No,
I'd have
believe me,
made it fly me right to the boat.
yeah.
We'll see you at 2:30 before then, right? Before you
Sorry?
leave.
All right.
What's that?
We'll see you at 2:30 before.
Yeah,
you leave, right?
that's the last thing I'm doing before I go on the clock for my great business cruise adventure.
Cool.
All right,
Well, good luck. Have fun.
all right.
All right.
All right.
Okay.
2:30.